You know, there isn't anything beautiful about this life. Sometimes we find certain things in life that we really love, certain things in life that we really hold near and dear, and that's all we got. You know, some of us, we have pets and, we love them to death. Some of us, maybe, you're lucky enough to have family who you love to death. I love my family, but I don't think I love them to death. I've never, haven't really had that connection with my family for a while. I've kind of just been, on my own, a lone wolf, if you want to say that. And it's just made me realize that there's nothing beautiful about this life. When people talk about life as a gift, it's not. Life is a burden. You know, life is as a cross you have to carry, because it's like everybody, everywhere you go, you get told that life is so beautiful. Everywhere you go, you get told that you got to take care of yourself and you got to love yourself. How when this world is this evil? This world is this is an evil world, man. There's nothing beautiful about this life. You know, even in a lot of our media, even in a lot of our childhood media, a lot of the dark truths are put out there. You know, like if you think of the movie, I always think of the movie Shrek as like a beautiful place to live in. But if you think about it, Shrek is actually, the Shrek universe is pretty brutal as well. You have a outcasted ogre rotting away in a swamp, and then the lord of the town just seizes his land and forces him to go on an adventure to reclaim the deed to his land. It's all the same stuff, man. It's the same thing here. It's like if you own a piece of land or if you own a house, you're gonna have to pay taxes. You're gonna have to hope the government doesn't want to take it away from you. You're gonna have to hope some malevolent forces don't take it from you. You know, and there's nothing beautiful about this world, man. Yesterday I was watching some images from, I'm not gonna say particularly what, but one of the global conflicts that's going on right now, where a small piece of land is surrounded, and there's like 2 million people in that really small piece of land. And I was just looking at the pictures and the videos of the people in that small piece of land, starving, begging for food. And I'm like, is their life a gift? Is their life a blessing? Is their life beautiful? No, their life is a burden. I'm sure many of them would rather pass away or have never even have been born if they knew that they were going to be subjugated to such horrendous horrors and atrocities. And I'm not a political guy or anything, but I just see it for what it is. This world is hell. Hell is empty. All of hell is here. This is hell, man. This world is hell. You could be surrounded by all the happiness in the world, but your life would be hell. You know, it's, I've just been thinking like, there's nothing beautiful about this life. That's why I haven't really had motivation to make videos. That's why I haven't really had motivation to go live or do anything or interact, because I've been depressed, man. I've been sad. I've been under the weather or whatever. I just, this world is just scary, man. I'm telling you, I was watching those videos yesterday, and I was just seeing all those people beg for food. Like they had like a bunch of bowls. They were like holding their bowl out, begging for food, and I was just like, how long until that hits me? How long until I'm begging for food on the street corner? How long until I'm getting deleted because I'm begging for a couple grains of rice? This life is not beautiful, man. This life is a burden. That's why I'm not an antinatalist, but I understand the antinatalists, because there is no reason to be bringing in children into this horrible hell realm. This is a hell realm, man. This is literally hell, where people pass away, people get deleted, people get tortured. It's hell, man. There's nothing beautiful about this life. This life is not a gift. Most of us, we have to work a job to sustain ourselves. And if we don't work a job, we're stuck being broke. We're stuck without food. We're stuck without anything that isn't just probably some air. Like you have to have money to buy everything. You have to buy money to buy water. You have to buy money to buy gas, to buy clothing, to everything. So for everything, you have to be enslaved in some way or the other, some other fashion, some type of fashion. You have to be enslaved, and it's just, this world is disgusting. This world is disgusting. The older I get, the more I see the reality of this life. This life is a hell. This is a hell realm. This is not a place that we should be bringing people in happily. Like, oh, we're bringing in babies. Nah, man. This is a realm that, if you could just get out, if you could just survive your life without being subjugated and through such horrible stresses, you should consider yourself lucky, man. That's why I'm trying to do my best to hide away from the world, because every time I go outside, I get more black pilled. Every time I go outside, I get more truth bombed. I get more, I see the brutality in a wider field of view, and there's nothing beautiful here, man. There's nothing. There's no light at the end of the tunnel. One of the things that kept me alive for a long time was hope, was thinking that there was light at the end of the tunnel. But the older I get and the more I see, the more I'm tuned in with everything, the more I see that there is no light at the end of the tunnel. Honestly, it probably just, the way things are going right now, by the time it's 2030, by the time it's 2040, it's just going to be more violent. There's going to be more hatred. There's going to be more deletion, more starvation, more hatred. It's like everybody hates each other nowadays. And it's not because of any, like, people think, oh, it's because of the housing crisis. No, people have always hated each other. It was just easy times that made people somewhat get along with each other. But true colors are showing now. People don't like my people. I'm Mexican. People don't like me. I'm sure half of you guys, I'm sure like 80% of you guys don't like me. I'm sure 80% of you guys probably watch me just so you guys could hear me fail, and that's okay. I'm not upset about that. All I'm saying is this world that's what it is, man. Where everybody, almost like one out of every 10 people you interact with might be sincere, and then the remaining 9, they're conniving, they're evil, they're plotting, they're scheming, they're doing something, they're thinking of ways to finesse you. Like, I don't do things out of finesse. Like, sometimes people think they'll finesse me. Like, oh, I finessed Tahana, man. I finessed him, Nah, man, I did that out of love, bro. Because I'm actually I'm one of the few genuine people that actually does things out of love. I do things out of love. Everything I've done, I do it out of love, man. If I've ever helped any of you guys out in any way, shape, or form, I did it out of love. Don't think you finessed me. Don't think you got one up on me. Don't think you schemed me. I don't do that, man. I do things out of love, man. I do things out of the kindness of my heart. I do things because I wish we lived in a world that wasn't this evil. But unfortunately, people like me and probably some people like you guys probably, we're rare, man. We're a rare people. People who actually want to see the world succeed. People who actually want to see the world thrive and be better and happy. People like us are rare, man. Most people crave destruction. Most people crave dropping projectiles that go boom on people. Most people, they wanna poke people with a stick. Like, this is a messed up world, man. That's why I don't care to make friends. Sometimes people ask me like, hey, man, why don't you have any friends? Why don't you socialize with people? Because people are evil. People are conniving. People are scheming and plotting and trying to figure out ways that they could delete you. And I've been told a lot in my life that I'm a very extreme individual, but every time I get proved right, man, it's like a lot of the things that are coming and bubbling up to surface, I've known. And I just kept them to myself because no one cares to hear, because no one cares. Most people want to live with their head underneath the rock, going la, la, covering their ears with their hands and going la, 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 la. It's so they don't hear anything. But it's like, for me, it's the opposite. It's like, I want to cover my ears with my hands, but it's like they don't muffle out the sound. I still hear the the brutal realities of life. There's nothing beautiful, man. There's nothing beautiful waiting for us, bro. You know, people say about getting old, oh, getting old's a blessing. No, it's not, man. If you once you hit a certain age and your body starts to decay and your body starts to break down, you know, it's a wrap, man. You're not ever gonna get a second wind. You're never gonna get, you know, that's why I'm enjoying my mobility to the best I can right now. You know, there's times where I'm walking on a nature walk and I start running. I hit a sprint, or I jump. I do all these things because I know one day I'm gonna hit the point. If I even get to the point where I age, I'll hit the point where I can't run like I used to. I can't jump like I used to. I don't have that same explosiveness. And people say that's a beautiful thing. Oh, it's a beautiful thing to get old. Yeah, maybe it's a beautiful thing to get old when you have a wife, kids, grandkids, great grandkids, brothers, sisters that are supportive. What about if you're alone, man? What if all your life you've been forced to be alone, a lone wolf? And people, they'll say, oh, the lone wolf dies and the pack survives. Not really, man. Sometimes the lone wolf is the one who survives. You know, sometimes the pack gets deleted by a bear. They're roaming through the through the forest, and then a grizzly bear comes out of nowhere, deletes the pack. You know, and the lone wolf maybe who, but it's not a beautiful existence. There's nothing beautiful. That's what I'm saying. There's no beautiful ending to this, man. Even if you get a girlfriend, even if you get a loving wife, more than likely she will leave you. More than likely something will happen to you. Some sort of illness will hit you. Some sort of, you'll probably get in a car accident and you'll get your legs chopped off, and then your wife won't want to be with the disabled man and she'll leave you and go get spread apart by Tyrone. Your kids, even if you were to have kids, more than likely your kids would grow up to despise you. Your kids would grow up to hate you. Maybe your kids wouldn't even visit you when you're older. They would just try to see what they could get out of you. There's nothing beautiful, man. There's nothing beautiful. That's why I don't go around thumping a Bible saying, hey, the world's beautiful. No. How come in the past days, how come you'll read the Bible or you'll hear these biblical stories, and God used to make himself present. He used to come down from the stars and talk to these people and tell them to stay strong. Why doesn't he do that anymore now? Why doesn't he come down from the stars right now and talk to me? Hey, son, it's okay. It's okay, son. You have a purpose. Why doesn't he do that anymore? Why? Because he probably never existed. Truth be told, like even my beliefs in religion, more than likely, they are just a handbook to create submissive slaves. And even that is sad, man, because I wish at least religion was real. I wish at least God was good and mighty and powerful and all caring and all loving, but he's not, man. My whole life has been a shit show. And I feel like most of you guys have probably had a life that's been a shit show as well. You probably grew up in a split household. You probably had, bullies. You probably never found love. You probably were picked on. You probably were hated by your family. So you went from school where you were fighting, and then you went home to where you were fighting again. So the only time you found peace was when you were asleep. So you carry that into your adulthood, and you enjoy sleep. You enjoy getting as much sleep as you can, and it's like, there's nothing beautiful, man. Not even these jobs. Sometimes people will say, you got to focus on your money, man. You got to focus on your money, bro. It's like, bro, what money? They're paying $15 an hour. And rent for a single apartment is $2,000. Do the math, my friend. 15 times 40 is what? Like 600. And then 600 times 4 is what? 2,400. So you're gonna be left with $400 at the end of the month to pay for your food, pay for your transport, pay for your clothes, pay for everything. And then that 2,000 only includes rent. It doesn't even include gas. So it's like there is nothing beautiful here, man. Even college, like at least college back in our parents' days, or back in our maybe a few generations before us, college was enough to get you in through the door. It's not even enough to get you in through the door anymore. All these jobs are being replaced by foreign workers that are like, and people always talk, oh, it's Mexicans. It's not even Mexicans anymore at this point, man. You're getting replaced by all sorts of different walks of life. It's not even Christians or Catholics anymore. You're getting replaced by Hindus. You're getting replaced by Muslims. You're getting replaced by religions you've never even heard of. And this world is just cruel and messed up. That's why I don't believe that there's like good out here anymore. Sometimes I do try to be a beacon of good, but it gets extinguished very fast. There's only so much, there's so much evil and bad in this world that a little glimmer of good is not enough. It's like dropping one bucket of water on a house fire. It's like, what's one bucket of water gonna do in a house fire, bro? These people's belongings and their whole life is getting caught up and consumed by flame, and you think that you throw in a bucket of water is gonna do something. It's not, man. There's nothing beautiful, bro. There is no light at the end of the tunnel. There is no pot of gold at the end of the rainbow. There isn't, man. All those, why do you think things like alcohol are so socially accepted? Because people know that you need to drown yourself in liquor to be able to even get up and go to work. I remember when I was working at this one warehouse job, it was basically a slavery farm. It was at this cup noodle type of thing, like noodles or whatever. And this guy, he was working there, and he had like a bunch of beers on him, and I was kind of like looking at him, like, I was 18 at the time. I was still full of hope and glimmer in my eye and twinkle in my eye, and hope and love and kumbaya. And I was like, why is this guy drinking on the job? I see why now, because the only way for him to get through that miserable day in his miserable life was to consume a beverage that could numb the misery. And I understand that man now. The older I get, I understand that man, and I don't judge him, because unfortunately, if you're not drowning yourself in liquor, you're probably going to be overthinking, and that overthinking is going to lead to some sort of action that is devastating. Like, I always try to promote against acts of self termination. But sometimes those people who self-terminated, they at least found peace. They haven't been suffering anymore. But like yesterday, I'm telling you, it was something about watching those videos yesterday about those people starving in a place of the world. And I was like, how long until my people get starved? How long until my people are starved? How long until my people are rounded up like cattle? And no one does anything, and people just laugh, and it's so sad to me. It's so sad to me to know that there is nothing beautiful at the end of the tunnel, man. There's nothing. There's no, we could sit here and we could, talk and hope and have all these good wishes for the world. But truth be told, evil always wins, man. Evil will always prevail. People always say good always prevails. No, it doesn't. Good hasn't prevailed for thousands of years. How are you going to say good has prevailed when a lot of our recent history is violent? So many wars, so many people dying, so many people getting starved, so many countries up in smoke and flame. How are you going to say that good prevails, man? That's why I'm sick of these. I'm sick of toxic positivity. I'm fed up of toxic positivity. All toxic positivity is just lying to yourself. I could sit here and lie to myself. Oh, I'm gonna find a girlfriend tomorrow. Oh, I'm gonna be rich tomorrow. Oh, I'm gonna, world peace is gonna happen tomorrow. It's just lying to yourself. It's not real. It's not authentic. It's not gonna happen. And there's nothing beautiful in this world, man. This life is not a gift. This life is a burden, man. This life is a cross to carry. If you actually think about it, like, do you actually love your people, or are you just worried for them? Ask yourself that. Ask yourself, like, do you actually love your people, or are you just worried something's going to happen to them? Are you just worried? Do you love your mom, or are you just worried that she's going to pass away? Do you love your brothers and sisters, or are you just worried that they're going to get hit by a car? It's insane, man. It's insane how this life, the simple act of you being alive puts so much pressure. It puts so much pressure. That's why I've come to the conclusion that even if a woman was to want to be my wife, I'm not going to have kids. Because I know with the way I am, I would just be worried about those kids 24/7, because I have reasons to worry about those kids. I know the truths of this world. I know that if you let your kid out the house for a couple minutes, you might never see him again. He might end up in the back of some all-white van being harvested for organs. You never know. Like, this world's just so cruel. This life is not a gift, man. This life is a burden. Life is a burden, bro. Like, sometimes we think we're so different than animals. We're not, bro. Every time a chicken is born, do you really think a chicken is like, oh, life's beautiful, wow? The whole life of that chicken is just to be is just to be fattened up, to be turned into meat, to be turned into a carcass that is going to be devoured. Like that, how is that a gift? How is that a gift, bro? How's that a gift? How's it a gift for a cow to be born when its whole life is going to be living in some pen just to be slaughtered, just to be consumed and devoured and turned into human waste? It's not. Life is not a gift, man. Life is not a gift. Life is a burden. There is no beauty here. Like I've come to realize, man, there is no beauty. You know, like even the little things aren't beautiful, man. Like that's why I just care to just live out my little life in my little corner with my little, like the dogs I have now. I care about them, man. I worry about them more than anything. I worry about them because I know how evil people are. I know people have projectile launchers. I know people have poison. I know people have all these things that they could do to my dogs, and it's like I just worry about them, man. I worry about everything, and I like that just proves to me life is a burden. Life is just a burden because when people say, "Oh, if you love someone, you worry," that means it's a burden. Because this world is so messed up and ugly, and I just feel betrayed. I feel betrayed by the world, man. I'm not gonna lie. Like I just feel betrayed. I'm tired, man. I'm tired. I'm tired of this all, man. I feel bad for all my fellow black pilled men out there because I can't even imagine how tiring life must be for you guys as well. If it's tiring for me, it's probably tiring for you, and that just proves to me that life is a burden. That's a burden, man, because even if we wanted to check out, we probably don't do it because we have so many people that we quote unquote feel that would be sad. So that just proves life's a burden. That just proves that everybody around you is a burden. I understand why some guys are nothing. Like they have nothing. They have no family. They have no pets. They have no car. They have no bike. They have like one pair of shoes, two pairs of jeans, because it's like the less you have in this world, the less of a burden, man. Everything is just a burden. Even when you order a package on Amazon or something, and you're like, they leave it in front of your door, you're just worried about it the whole time. You're at work, you get that notification, your package has been left at the door. You're just worried. You're just worried all the time. Like, oh, who's gonna steal it? Is somebody gonna steal it? Life is just a burden, man. Life is a burden. Life is not a gift. There's nothing beautiful about life. Life is a burden. Life is something, I honestly see it now. I firmly believe that there is something out there harvesting negative energy because this world is a negative, evil place, and it's almost set up to be a negative, evil place. It almost seems like this world is set up to be a negative, evil place, but that's a different topic for a different video, man. Like this life is just not a gift, bro. Like I'm tired of being told life is a gift. Whenever I hear somebody like survived an illness, and people are like, "Oh, thank the heavens, he survived an illness." It's like why? He should have just perished. There's more peace in perishing than just being reburdened. Like that fighter guy, Ben Askren, he had a double lung transplant. A part of me, a really dark, black-pilled part of me was like, well, this guy should have just perished because now his whole life is going to be a shit show. His whole life, he's going to be a burden. His whole life, he's going to be slow and weak, and his family's going to look at him like less of a man. Like, even though they won't say it, even though society won't say it, society will view you as less of a man if something like that happens to you. If you get jumped by a gang of migrants or something like that and they beat you into a coma and like you survive, but now you have a speech impediment, like, okay, people might be like, "Yay, he survived, cheerio." But reality, truth be told, they're going to view you as less. Like, damn, this fool got jumped. Damn, this fool got rocked. Damn, this fool got his shit beat. This fool got victimized. No one's gonna really look at you like a hero. Nobody's gonna really look at you like, oh, he survived, he's tough. They're gonna look at you like a burden. Like, man, I'm worried about this guy now. I'm worried about him. He's a burden. He can't defend himself. He can't protect himself. So this whole life's a burden, man. Peace out. I'm tired of this.